Claire walked out of the small office building with tired steps. The evening air was heavy, and she felt the weight of the day pressing against her shoulders. Her job was simple, nothing special, but it kept her going. She had no big dreams anymore, only the hope of making it through each day without more trouble. But trouble always seemed to follow her, and tonight was no different. As she reached the parking lot, she noticed a familiar figure waiting near the gate. Her stomach sank at once. It was Ethan, her ex. His tall frame leaned against the fence, his eyes fixed on her in that same cold way she had known too well. Claire stopped in her tracks, wishing she could disappear. She had left him months ago after years of his control and anger, but he never accepted it. Every time she thought it was over, he came back. She did not answer my calls, Ethan said, his voice sharp. Claire clutched her bag tighter and tried to walk past him. There is nothing to talk about, Ethan. Please leave me alone. He stepped in front of her, blocking her way. His hand reached for her arm, and she flinched. His grip was not tight yet, but the memory of past nights filled her mind and made her heart race. You think you can walk away from me so icily, he said. You belong with me. No one else will want you. No one else will care. Claire's lips trembled, but she tried to stay calm. I do not belong to you. It is over. His eyes narrowed, and his tone grew darker. Do not push me, Claire. You know what happens when you push me? Her pulse quickened. She looked around, hoping someone would notice, but the parking lot was quiet. The few people who had walked out earlier were gone. It was just her, Ethan, and the cold night. Before she could take another step, another voice cut through the silence. She told you to leave her alone. Both Claire and Ethan turned toward the sound. A man in a dark suit walked forward with steady steps. His presence was calm yet firm, and there was something in his tone that carried weight. He was not shouting, but the authority in his voice made Ethan's hand drop from Claire's arm. Claire stared at the stranger. It looked like he had just stepped out of a courtroom, his tie still in place, his briefcase in one hand. His eyes were sharp, but not unkind. Who are you? Ethan demanded, his voice uneasy now. The man did not flinch. My name is Daniel. I heard enough to know she wants nothing to do with you. Leave her alone before this gets worse for you. Ethan clenched his jaw, trying to appear strong, but there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Daniel stood tall, not moving back, not giving any space for Ethan's threats to take root. Claire felt her chest loosen slightly, though her hand still shook. She could not believe someone had stepped in for her. This is none of your business, Ethan spat. Daniel's gaze hardened. When a man harasses a woman in public, it becomes my business. If you do not walk away now, I will make sure the police know exactly what you have been doing. I am a lawyer, and I know what evidence can do. The mention of the word lawyer made Ethan falter. His eyes darted from Claire to Daniel, and for the first time, his anger did not look so certain. After a long pause, Ethan muttered under his breath and stepped back. This is not over. It is over, Daniel said firmly. Now leave. Ethan turned and walked toward the street, his figure fading into the dark. Claire stood frozen, unable to move. Her body still shook from the encounter, but she also felt a strange new strength near her. Daniel turned to her, his expression softening. Are you all right? She nodded slowly, though her throat was tight. Thank you. I did not know what to do. You do not have to thank me, he replied. He had no right to touch you. Do you want me to walk you to your car? Claire hesitated, then gave a small nod. They walked together in silence, the sound of their steps echoing across the empty lot. For the first time in a long while, Claire felt like she was not facing her fear alone. Claire sat in the passenger seat of Daniel's car, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The quiet hum of the engine filled the silence, but her heart was still racing from what had just happened. She kept glancing out the window, afraid Ethan might suddenly appear again. But Daniel's steady presence beside her gave her a sense of safety she had not felt in a long time. Daniel drove with calm focus, his eyes on the road, yet he spoke in a voice that carried both strength and care. Does he follow you often? Claire hesitated before answering. Sometimes. He shows up at my work or near my apartment. I told him it was over months ago, but he does not listen. He thinks I will go back to him. Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. You should not have to live in fear. Men like him depend on silence, but you do not have to stay silent anymore. I can help you. She turned her head toward him, surprised. Why would you help me? I do not even know you. Daniel gave a small shrug, his gaze still on the road. because it is the right thing to do. No one should face someone like him alone. No, and you should not have to. Claire's throat tightened, and for a moment she could not speak. She had heard plenty of people tell her to be stronger or to just ignore Ethan, but Daniel's words felt different. They were not dismissive. They carried weight. After a few minutes of silence, Daniel pulled up in front of her small apartment building. He put the car in park and looked at her with steady eyes. "Are you safe here? Do you want me to walk you inside?" Claire hesitated again, torn between fear and pride. "I will be fine. He usually does not come around at night. Thank you for helping me earlier. If you had not been there, I do not know what would have happened." Daniel gave her a short nod. "You do not owe me thanks. But promise me one thing. If he shows up again, call the police right away. And if you need help with more than that, you can call me too." He handed her a small card with his number on it. The name printed on it was clear and bold: Daniel Carter, attorney at law. Claire stared at the card, the weight of it sinking in. She had no idea why a man like him would go out of his way for her, but the gesture left a warmth in her chest. "Good night, Claire," Daniel said, his voice steady. "Good night," she whispered before stepping out of the car. She climbed the stairs to her apartment slowly, clutching the card tightly in her hand. When she closed the door behind her, she leaned against it for a moment, her mind spinning. She could not stop thinking about the way Daniel had stood between her and Ethan. The strength in his voice, the calm in his eyes, the way he had made her feel like she mattered. It was something she had not felt in years. Meanwhile, Daniel sat in his car for a moment before driving off. He was used to tough cases, men who abused their power and thought they could control others. He had fought many battles in court, but what he saw tonight was different. Claire's fear was real, and it stirred something in him that went beyond his role as a lawyer. He told himself it was about justice, about doing what was right. But deep down he knew there was more to it. The next morning, Claire woke up early, her mind still filled with fragments of the night before. She carried Daniel's card in her bag, checking it more than once during the day, as though the simple paper carried some kind of protection. In the afternoon, her phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. Hesitating, she answered. "Hello, this is Daniel," the voice said. I just wanted to check if you are all right today." Claire's lips curved into a small smile she had not expected. "Yes, I am fine. Thank you for asking." "Good. If you ever feel unsafe again, do not hesitate to reach out. You are not alone in this." After the call ended, Claire sat quietly at her desk, her heart beating faster than it should. She told herself it was only kindness, only concern, but deep down she felt a pull toward him. That night, she caught herself looking out the window, thinking of him. The way he had spoken, the strength in his voice, the safety she felt when he stood near her. She tried to shake it off, but the thought remained. Daniel Carter was a stranger who had stepped in at the right time, but something about him lingered in her mind. She could not explain it, yet she could not ignore it either. Over the next few days, Claire found herself thinking about Daniel more than she expected. She tried to focus on her work, on the small routines that had kept her going, but his presence lingered in her mind. She remembered the way he had stood between her and Ethan, calm and strong, and she realized she had never felt so safe with anyone before. One afternoon, Daniel called her again. His voice was calm, but there was a warmth in it that made Claire's heart skip a beat. "I was wondering if you want to meet for coffee." "Nothing serious, just to talk." Claire hesitated. It was unusual for her to meet someone she barely knew, but something inside her told her to say yes. "Okay," she said softly. They met at a small cafe not far from her apartment. The place was quiet, filled with the soft hum of conversation and the smell of fresh coffee.
Daniel
Was already there, sitting at a corner table, looking calm and composed.
"Oh,
When he saw her, he stood and offered a gentle smile. "Hi, Claire," he said. "I hope I am not intruding." "Not at all," Claire replied, taking a seat. They ordered coffee and sat in silence for a moment. Claire noticed the way Daniel carried himself, the quiet confidence that seemed natural, not forced. She also noticed how kind his eyes were, how he seemed to listen without judgment. "So, how have you been holding up?" Daniel asked. Claire sighed. "I am better than before. Seeing you the other night, it changed something. I felt safe. I have not felt that way in a long time." Daniel nodded. I am glad you deserve to feel safe. No one should have to live in fear of someone else. I want to make sure you do not have to." There was a pause, and Claire felt the air between them shift. It was not awkward, but it was charged with something unspoken. "You know," Daniel continued, "it is not just about protection. It is about respect. I respect you, Claire, for standing up for yourself, for facing fear, even when it is hard." Claire felt her cheeks warm. She looked down at her coffee cup, feeling a flutter in her chest. "Thank you. That means a lot. I have not had many people say that to me." Daniel smiled softly. "You should hear it more often. You are strong, even if you do not see it right now." They talked for a while about ordinary things, work, the city, small stories from their lives. Claire laughed freely, and for the first time in months, she felt a lightness in her chest. She realized how rare it was to feel this way, how much she had missed having someone listen without judgment. Daniel shared some stories from his work as a lawyer, how he defended people who had no one else to fight for them. Claire was impressed, not just by his skill, but by the care he showed in his work. She could see that he was the kind of man who stood by what was right, not just what was easy. After coffee, they walked through the nearby park. The evening air was cool, and the leaves rustled under their feet. They talked less now, letting the quiet space fill the gaps. Claire noticed the way Daniel seemed aware of her presence, his attention gentle but present. "I feel like I can breathe when I am with you," Claire said quietly, almost to herself. Daniel looked at her, his eyes steady. "That is how it should be. You should never feel trapped again. I will make sure of that." Claire's heart ached a little, a mixture of fear and hope. She was beginning to realize that her feelings for Daniel were growing, though she tried not to name them. It was confusing to feel drawn to someone who had just entered her life, yet impossible to ignore the pull. As the sun set, they walked back to the cafe. Claire felt a sense of calm she had not felt in years. She knew Ethan was still a threat, but with Daniel, the fear seemed smaller, more manageable. She could almost imagine a life where she was free and cared for, a life that seemed impossible before. And Daniel paused as they reached the street near her apartment. "I should go," he said. "But we will talk again soon, right?" Claire nodded, her hand brushing against his for a moment. "Soon." As she watched him walk away, she felt something stir deep inside her, a feeling she could not yet name, but it was strong and impossible to ignore. For the first time in a long while, Claire allowed herself to hope. Claire tried to focus on her work the next morning, but a shadow of unease lingered. Ethan had not been gone for long, and she knew he might return at any moment. She could not shake the feeling of eyes on her, of danger lurking just beyond the edges of her life. As she sorted files at her desk, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Daniel. "You all right today? Remember, you can call me anytime if he shows up." Claire's fingers tightened around the phone. She typed back quickly. "Thank you. I am okay for now, but I will call if I need you." She tried to focus on her work, but the quiet office felt too large, too empty. Every sound made her jump. She replayed the night Ethan had cornered her in the parking lot, and the memory made her stomach churn. She was not alone anymore, she reminded herself. Daniel was out there, and he cared. Later that evening, as she left the office, Claire noticed a figure standing near the corner of the street. Her heart froze. Ethan. He had not followed her in a while, and now he was back, waiting. She tried to remain calm, but fear tightened around her chest. Her hands shook as she reached for her bag. "Claire," Ethan said, his voice low and sharp. "We need to talk." She stepped back, keeping distance. "No, this is over. Leave me alone." He smirked, stepping closer. "You think you can just run away from me? I'll not let that happen." Claire's mind raced. She could not face him alone. She dialed Daniel's number with trembling hands. The call went straight to voicemail. Panic rose in her chest. Before she could hang up, a strong hand rested on Ethan's shoulder, pushing him back. "That is far enough," Daniel said, his voice calm but powerful. Ethan froze, his anger flashing into uncertainty. He looked at Daniel and saw no hesitation, no fear. Claire's heart raced, relief flooding through her. "Stay away from her," Daniel continued. "I will not ask again." Ethan's jaw tightened. "This is none of your business. It became my business the moment you threatened her." Daniel said firmly. "And if you try anything again, the police will know everything. I am a lawyer, Ethan. Know how to protect her and make sure you cannot hurt her again." Ethan glared. But the weight of Daniel's words stopped him. He muttered something under his breath and turned away, disappearing into the shadows of the street. Claire exhaled shakily. She could not believe he was gone. She felt weak and strong at the same time, drained from fear, but also filled with a strange warmth. She looked at Daniel, who stood calmly beside her, his presence solid and reassuring. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice small. Daniel shook his head. "No need to thank me. You do not have to face him alone anymore. This ends tonight for you." They walked together to her apartment slowly, Claire's steps cautious, her body still tense. Daniel matched her pace, silent but attentive. She felt safe with him, a feeling she had not known in years. Once inside her apartment, she closed the door behind them and leaned against it, letting the tension leave her body. "I do not know what I would have done if you had not come," she said quietly. Daniel gave a small smile. "You would have been fine eventually, but it is better you did not have to face him alone. You are stronger than you realize, Claire, but everyone deserves help sometimes." She looked at him, noticing the calm determination in his eyes. Something about him drew her in, made her heart beat faster. She realized she was not just grateful. She was beginning to care. The following days were quieter, but Claire could not ignore the tension in the air. Ethan's threats had not been empty, and she knew he might try again. She checked her phone constantly, waiting for a message from Daniel, needing to hear his voice even for a moment. When Daniel called that evening, she answered immediately. "I checked the area around your apartment today," he said. "I will keep an eye out. You do not have to worry. You are safe with me." His words filled her with relief and a growing warmth. She realized she was thinking about him constantly, wondering how he moved through the world so calmly while still caring so deeply for her. That night, Claire lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She could not stop thinking about him, about the way he had saved her, and the strength in his voice. She felt a pull she could not name yet, a feeling that something new and important was beginning in her life. For the first time in a long while, fear was no longer the only emotion she felt. There was also hope and curiosity and a strange excitement she did not understand. Claire woke up that morning with a restless feeling. She could not stop thinking about Daniel. The way he had protected her, the calm strength in his voice, and the quiet care in his eyes kept running through her mind. She had never met anyone like him before, and the thought made her heart beat faster. Later that afternoon, Daniel called. "Are you free for a walk today?" Claire hesitated for a moment, then said yes. She needed the distraction, and she wanted to see him. They met at a small park near her apartment. The sun was warm, and the wind moved through the trees, carrying a calm feeling. Daniel was already there, waiting. He smiled when he saw her, and she felt a flutter in her chest. "Hi, Claire," he said. "Ready for some fresh air?" "Yes," she replied softly. They walked along the paths, talking about small things, about the city, about people they noticed around them. Claire laughed freely, something she had not done in months. Daniel listened to her with full attention, making her feel important and heard. "I enjoy hearing you laugh," Daniel said quietly, almost as if he was speaking to himself. Claire felt warmth in her chest. She looked at him, noticing the small details she had not before. The way his eyes softened when he looked at her, the gentle tilt of his head, the way he seemed completely present with her. "You are different from anyone I have ever met," she said quietly. "And you make me feel safe and calm at the same time." Daniel nodded. "You deserve that feeling. No one should ever make you feel small or afraid. And I want to make sure you never feel that way again." They walked further into the park, the path quieter now. Claire felt a pull toward him she could not explain. It was not just gratitude. It was something stronger, something that made her heart race when he was near. "I think about you a lot," she admitted quietly, almost afraid of the words. "Since the day you saved me, I cannot stop thinking about you." Daniel stopped walking and looked at her. His eyes were steady, calm, but there was something in them that made her heart skip a beat. "I think about you too," he said. "It's more than I expected. I tried to keep it professional, to stay calm, but I cannot ignore it either." Claire felt a mix of relief and excitement. She had feared he might not feel the same, but now she knew. They continued walking, their hands brushing slightly as they moved. Claire noticed how safe she felt with him, how natural it was to be near him. The fear she had carried for so long seemed smaller, less powerful. She realized she was beginning to trust him, not just for protection, but in a deeper way. "Do you ever feel like some people just come into your life at the right time?" she asked, her voice quiet. Daniel smiled softly. "Yes, right. Sometimes it feels like we were meant to meet at that moment, to change each other's lives." Claire felt her chest tighten. She wanted to tell him everything, her fears, her dreams, her feelings, but the words were too heavy to say aloud. Instead, she walked beside him, letting the quiet bond grow between them. As the sun began to set, they sat on a bench overlooking a small pond. The water reflected the orange and pink of the sky. Claire leaned back slightly, feeling calm in a way she had not felt for a long time. "I'm glad you came into my life," she said quietly. Daniel looked at her, his eyes soft and warm. "I'm glad too. You make me feel like I am needed, and that is not something I feel often." For a moment, they sat in silence, the world around them fading. Claire realized her feelings were stronger than she had admitted. She liked him deeply, and the thought both scared her and thrilled her. As they walked back toward the street, their hands brushed again, and this time, Claire did not pull away. She wanted to feel the connection, wanted to hold on to it, even if just for a moment. Daniel noticed, and his eyes softened further. He did not speak, but she knew he felt the same. The bond between them was growing stronger, and Claire understood that this was only the beginning. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a life with someone who cared for her, who protected her, and who made her heart feel alive. Claire woke up with a tight feeling in her chest. She had been enjoying the calm days with Daniel, but she knew Ethan might still return. The thought made her nervous, though the presence of Daniel in her life gave her a strange comfort. Later that afternoon, she decided to go for a short walk. She needed fresh air, even if fear followed her in quiet shadows. As she left her apartment, she noticed movement near the street. Her heart sank. Ethan. He stood there waiting, his eyes fixed on her. She froze. Mind raced, wondering how he had found her again. Before she could step back, her phone vibrated in her pocket. It was a message from Daniel. "Stay where you are. I'm coming." Do not try to confront him alone. Claire's hands shook as she waited. Within minutes, Daniel appeared, his steps calm but purposeful. He did not rush. He walked with quiet strength, a presence that made Claire feel like she could breathe again. "Claire, stay behind me," he said firmly. Ethan turned, his face twisting with anger. "You cannot keep her from me," he said. Daniel's voice was steady and strong. "She is not yours to control. Stay back, Ethan. You have one chance to leave quietly." Ethan laughed, but it was nervous. "And if I do not leave, then the law will deal with you," Daniel said, his eyes hardening. "I will make sure you face every consequence for your threats. You are done." Ethan hesitated, seeing the determination in Daniel's eyes. He knew Daniel was not bluffing. Claire's safety had become a line he could not cross without consequences. Daniel stepped closer, his body calm but strong. Ethan backed up slightly, unsure. He had never faced someone like this before, someone who would not bend or fear him. Finally, Ethan muttered under his breath and turned away, disappearing down the street. Claire felt relief flood through her, but also a mixture of awe and gratitude. She had not realized how much danger she had been in until Daniel had stopped it completely. Claire's knees felt weak as she turned to him. "Thank you. I cannot believe he has gone for good." Daniel shook his head slightly. "He will not come back. The law is on your side now, and I will make sure he stays away. You do not have to live in fear anymore." She looked at him, feeling a warmth spread in her chest. The gratitude she felt was stronger than before, but it was mixed with something new. She realized she liked him more than she expected, more than she could ignore. "I do not know how to thank you," she said softly. Daniel gave a small, calm smile. "You do not need to. Seeing you safe is enough." They walked back toward her apartment together. Claire's hands were still shaking slightly, but she felt safer than she had in years. The tension from fear was leaving her body, replaced by a sense of trust and something deeper she could not yet name. That evening, Claire sat by the window, thinking about the day. Ethan's threat was finally gone, and Daniel had stood by her without hesitation. She realized how much she depended on him, not just for protection, but for the calm and care he gave. She felt a pull toward him that made her heart race, a feeling that had grown stronger over the days. She remembered the small gestures he had shown, the way he listened, the gentle concern in his voice, the way he made her feel like she mattered. She had been alone for so long, but now someone cared in a way that made her heart ache with warmth. Daniel, meanwhile, sat in his office that night thinking of Claire. He had helped many people in his life, but she was different. She was not just a client or someone who needed protection. She was someone who had captured his attention, someone he wanted to care for beyond duty. He knew his feelings were growing, and he welcomed them, even if it complicated things. He wanted to be there for her in every way possible, not just as her protector, but as someone who could share her life. The next morning, Claire called him. Her voice was soft but firm. "Thank you again. I feel like I can breathe now." Daniel's reply was calm and steady. "You always will." "I am here, Claire. I will make sure nothing ever hurts you again." Claire smiled, feeling a wave of relief and hope. She realized that she was no longer living in fear. She was beginning to feel something new, something powerful, something that had been missing for years. For the first time, Claire allowed herself to imagine a life where she could trust and care for someone without fear. And in her heart, she knew that Daniel was no longer just a protector. He was becoming someone she could not stop thinking about. Claire walked slowly through the park that evening. The air was cool, and the sun was just beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. She felt calm, yet her heart was racing. She had asked Daniel to meet her here, unsure of how to say what had been on her mind for days. When she reached the bench where they had met before, Daniel was already there. He stood as she approached, his calm presence making her feel safe immediately. He smiled softly. "Hi, Claire," he said. "You look well." "Hi, Daniel," she replied, her voice quiet. "Thank you for coming." They sat down together, the silence between them, comfortable at first. Claire took a deep breath. She had rehearsed what she would say, but now that the moment was here, words felt fragile. "Daniel," she began, "I cannot stop thinking about you. Since the day you saved me, I have thought about you constantly. I know you probably see me as someone you had to protect, but I feel something more, something real." Daniel's eyes softened, and for a moment Claire felt her heart beat too fast. "Claire," he said, his voice calm but warm, "I have felt the same. I tried to stay professional at first, but the truth is, I cannot stop thinking about you either. You have changed something in me." Claire looked at him, her chest tight with emotion. "I was scared for so long. I never thought someone could care like this. You make me feel safe, yes, but also alive. I want to be near you, to know you." Daniel reached out and gently took her hand. She felt warmth spread through her body. "I want that too. I want to be with you, not just as someone who protects you, but as someone who cares for you completely. You are important to me, Claire, more than you realize." She squeezed his hand, tears forming in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the release of all the fear and uncertainty she had carried for years. "I was afraid for so long, but with you, I do not feel afraid anymore. I feel hope. I feel like I can trust someone again." Daniel nodded, his thumb gently brushing over her hand. "You can trust me, Claire. I will not let anything hurt you. I will be here, not just today, but always. You are not alone anymore." The words settled between them, heavy with meaning. Claire felt her heart open in a way she had never experienced before. She realized that all the fear, all the pain from the past, had led her to this moment. Daniel was more than a protector. He was someone who understood her, cared for her, and wanted to be part of her life. I think I love you," she said quietly, almost afraid to speak it aloud. Daniel's eyes met hers, steady and unwavering. "I love you too, Claire. I have from the moment I realized what you had endured, and I knew I wanted to be more than someone who saved you. I want to be the person who shares your life, your happiness, and your days." Claire felt tears slip down her cheeks, but she smiled. She leaned closer, resting her head on his shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. For the first time in years, she felt completely safe and completely alive at the same time. They stayed like that for a long while, watching the sky change colors, feeling the quiet strength of each other's presence. Claire realized that life could be beautiful again. She had been broken, scared and unsure, but now she had someone who made her feel whole. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice soft. "You do not need to thank me," Daniel replied, holding her closer. "You never have to feel afraid again. We are together now, and nothing can change that." Claire smiled, her heart full. She knew the road ahead would not always be easy, but with Daniel by her side, she could face anything. She felt the connection of their souls, a bond formed through trust, care, and love. As the sun finally set, casting a golden glow over the park, Claire and Daniel sat together, hand in hand. The world around them seemed quieter, gentler, and in that moment, they both knew that they had found something rare and real, something worth holding on to forever. Claire rested her head against him again, closing her eyes. She felt safe, loved, and certain for the first time in her life. She could not stop thinking about him, and she did not want to. She knew their souls were tied, and nothing could ever pull them apart.